Here.
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 Here. Next up on the agenda is approval of the meeting agenda. Are there any revisions, additions, subtractions to the meeting agenda? Seeing none, I'd take a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
So moved.
And a second? Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. The meeting agenda is approved. Next up is approval of the consent agenda. The only item on the consent agenda this evening is the minutes of the regular meeting of the Edina Planning Commission of July 10th as well as July 24th. I believe the July 24th minutes were mailed to us separately and emailed, and the July 10th are in our packets. Are there any comments or revisions on the minutes? Seeing none, I'd take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, and the consent agenda is approved. Next up is community comment. This is the portion of the meeting where we invite members of the public to comment on items that are not on this evening's agenda. And if anyone in the audience would like to come forward at this time and comment on any item, I welcome them to come forward. I see only 3 individuals who I suspect are here for the one item on the agenda. You could come up and talk about some item that isn't on the agenda if you want. Seeing no volunteers, I would seek a motion to close community comment.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Next up is public hearings. We have one public hearing this evening. It is a variance for City Homes LLC, David Allen, for 5501 Lakeview Drive in Edina. And Chris, you're going to introduce this item? Very good.
Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, this property has received 2 variances to build a home in May, and so you may be familiar with the property, remember the request. So there is a plan that has been approved that can still be built on this property. The property is located at 5501 Lakeview Drive. It is now owned by a new owner, and there's a new plan for the property. There is a rambler on the property. It's a corner lot. The home faces Lakeview Drive to the west with the garage loading to the north along Lakeview Drive. This is the current home as it looks now, and the home that's to the east, and the home that's directly to the south. This is the existing survey, or the survey of the existing home showing the front yard setbacks, and that was the issue with the previous request, is that with removal of the house, the lot has to fall back to the setbacks of the homes on either side, which are deeper setbacks than the current house provides. This is the new footprint that is being proposed, and in the dashed line on the survey is the setbacks that are required for the lot, and then the overlap in pink is the area of encroachment. The garage would continue to load off the north side and would actually be further away from that north lot line than the existing garage. The existing garage is at about 19.5 feet. This is at about 25.5 feet. Previously, there was a variance requested from the front yard setback along the west side along Lakeview Drive because of the setback of the home to the south. This particular design does not require a front yard setback from the west lot line. This indicates the existing home in yellow and then the new home in orange. As you can see, it's further away from both street frontages than the existing home, but still wouldn't be able to maintain the required front yard setback, which is actually the setback established by the home to the east. What you may notice as well is that there's a 25-foot setback from the side wall of the garage. This is the garage to the east lot line, and the last time you reviewed this, there was much concern from the neighbor to the east because the setback of the garage wall was, I believe, going to be about 11 feet, and this will be 25 feet away. So there's a much more generous setback between the properties. This is the elevation of the redesign of the home, of the new home. This would be the north elevation, the elevation that does require a variance. It will be further away from the street than the existing garage. And the south elevation. Floor plans, this would be the basement plan, first floor. This is a more compact design for floor plan than the previous design was a little bit more spread out. This is the second floor then. This gives you a view, west view of the existing home, and then of the proposed new home inset within the neighborhood. It will be further back from Lakeview Drive than the existing home is now from the westerly lot line. And again, from the north, and also the garage will be further away from the north lot line than the existing garage. This is the existing survey again, and what you'll notice is that the sidewall of the garage, I believe, is about 21 and a half feet away from that easterly lot line. The new proposed garage will be 25 feet away, so it'll be even further away from that east lot line than the existing garage. This was the previous plan, the plan actually that can be built because there have been 2 variances granted on it, and it still can be built on the property. It did require 2 variances, a variance from Lakeview Drive to the west and then also to the north, and it's a little bit more spread out, less compact. Again, they chose that they would use this interior lot line for side yard setback purposes, so it was a much closer proximity on the garage to the east lot line, whereas they provided a deeper rear yard setback to the south. This is, again, the new plan, a little more compact, only needing a variance here in the north corner. It's further away from the street than the existing garage and also further away from that east lot line. These are the old plans. This can be built. The plans have been approved for variance. So really what we're looking at is a modification of the plan for the property, which would reduce the variance request to just 1 variance from the north on Lakeview. And with that, all of the conditions for variance remain the same. With that, I will stop and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions for Chris? All right. Thank you, Chris. I assume the applicants are the audience members with us tonight. If you want to come up and say a few words, you're welcome at this time. Why don't you all come up and just tell us a little bit about the project and why we ought to grant a variance? If you come to one of the side podiums, just introduce yourself and give us your name and address.
Hi, I'm Dave Allen. With City
Welcome, Mr.
Homes.
Allen.
Hi, thank you. Jay, this is Jay and his wife Erin are the ones that we're going to be building this home for. Dave is my partner at City Homes Design and Build, and Jay and Erin have been looking for a property for a long time. We've been looking for properties for them, and this one came up for sale, and they got very excited about it. One of the things is they have 3 boys, and they want to be in a neighborhood where their boys can run and play and have fun, and they go to Our Lady of Grace School, and they want to be closer to school. They live out in Edina now. And also they wanted to build they had a certain style of home that they wanted to build, a colonial style home. And this lot, we felt, fit very nicely for them to build this style of home, and it would fit in the neighborhood. They were very concerned about not building a home that would just be like the home on the street, you know. And so this lot just seemed like it was the right lot. But when we first looked at purchasing it, because of the setbacks, the way they were, the style of home that they wanted to do wasn't going to fit into that box. And then we found out that there was a variance granted, and so when we laid out the new home, we actually found out that the house that they wanted to build would fit in less of a variance than what was already granted. And so that's why we moved forward with the purchase of this lot and purchased it, and kind of why we're here tonight asking for the variance. It's designed by Ben Nelson, as you know, has been doing a lot of designs in Edina and does some very great architecture. These plans that you have in front of you are still not the final plans. They don't have all the jewelry and all the fancy stuff put on them quite yet, you know, and so the finished product, the finished design that we come in for permit with is even going to be more kind of cottagey and more spectacular, we think.
But the footprint is?
Footprint's the same. Actually, the footprint is kind of reduced a little bit. The porch, we bring in that porch on the side, back I think another 3 or 4 feet, so it's even reduced more from Lakeview Drive than what it says. But we wanted to come in with a variance that kind of maximize of where we would end up being, and it's been drawn back a little bit. Even the patio that's on the northwest side isn't sticking out anymore. We've drawn that back in. So, yeah, that's all I have to say.
All right, very good. Any questions for Mr. Allen? All right, thank you, gentlemen. This is a public hearing, so at this time I'd open the public hearing and invite any members of the public who'd like to come forward and speak on this application to come forward. I'm not seeing any members of the public here, although I would note that we did receive on our desks this evening a note from a Margaret Shaw who lives at 4611 Lakeview Drive that says, simply based upon the plans submitted by City Homes for the 5501 Lakeview Drive and the variance request on the north lot line of 14 feet 4 inches, I have no objection to this request. And I think... Is that the neighbor who did object to the proximity on the past version of this, Chris?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. As I recall, she never mind. So I would, seeing no one for the public hearing, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
And a second? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, so the public hearing is closed. Members of the commission, comments or questions? Perhaps we should start with Commissioners Carpenter and Grable.
It seems eminently reasonable. It's approved on what was there before, so I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want to support a variance at this time.
The only comment I have is that I wish they had something more final to bring to us when they asked for the variance. I assume that the footprint would be no larger than what's been presented here tonight, and if a motion is made, I would ask that that condition be added to the motion.
Commissioner Platter?
Well, I was going to say, I'm glad you worked it through with the neighbors, and I don't know if that was the complete reason you did something, but I'm glad that worked out, and hopefully that leads to a lot better relationships. And I think everyone coming can learn from that. And you know, these are a change to the neighborhood, and how do we best, as people have seen these tear down issues and everything, how can we best accommodate these for that kind of works for everyone? So I would say thanks for that, and hopefully everyone else that comes in can do similar type things as they go along.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potts?
Question for staff relative to the variance. Sorry, I'm a little late with this. I guess I should say, first of all, I do like the design of this house as it's presented, understanding it's still in process. And so with that in mind, Chris, the portion of the garage which is getting the variance looks like it is basically a 1.5 story structure. So there's vaulted ceiling living space above the garage. Under what circumstances would that become a problem if all of a sudden that were a full 2-story building? Or is there a point at which height restrictions would come in?
They would come into play as it relates to the interior side yard. If it were a 10-foot setback, they'd have to keep increasing the setback given the height with our current ordinance, the way it is right now. It doesn't affect setback from the street, but it would from an interior. They have 25 feet though, so
Right.
they're fine.
Okay, so that could potentially become a taller structure.
Oh, yes, it could have, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
The final image of what we will be submitting next week, Chris, that helps you see the actual final image of the house. You want to see it. It's very similar to what we have. Kind of show that this is what will be coming in for the permit for.
You want to put it on that? Well, I guess I would say, kind of echoing what Commissioner Grable said, that certainly if there are differences, I would assume that staff would be checking to make sure that they're not exceeding any requirements in terms of height or certainly any further encroaching into the setbacks than we are considering here as part of the application this evening.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, is there further discussion? I would, Commissioner Grable.
I guess the only other thing I'd like to say is I appreciate the fact that this is a colonial design rather than the cottages that have become so prevalent in new construction, and rather than something with a great big gaping front-loaded garage taking up the whole front of the house. So this is a good design, and just an editorial comment. I thank you for this good design. Thank you.
All right, I'd entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion to approve with the staff comments
Okay.
as well.
And did you want to include Commissioner Grable's suggestion about no larger a footprint than exists?
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Congratulations. Good luck. All right, I'm starting to think that I may have a chance to get us out of here before 10 o'clock tonight. Just have a few more items I want to go through. Next up is correspondence and petitions. I don't know that I saw a council connection, but there was a very nice summary of city council meeting on August 5th item. I don't know who, Jackie, Chris, who was responsible for that? Oh, very nice. I think that's a really nice idea. I think there was some request for some kind of summary of the activity at our last meeting, so I appreciate you putting that together. On that note, I know that at our last meeting we had sent some clarifying request language to the council on the rezoning, and I noticed that that is one of the items on here. Were any of us in attendance at the council meeting?
I attended the council
Commissioner
meeting.
Potts, can you give us any further details on what the council did?
They had a good discussion again, and in terms of our suggestion of, in particular, packaging bulk and height requirements, brought up the idea of providing a choice to folks. If you recall, we had proposed reducing the overall height of a structure from 35 to 30 feet on lots below 75 feet in width, of eliminating the second-story setback requirement from an interior yard, and then additionally increasing the side yards between homes, just in a general sense. And what council is giving the public a chance to comment on is a choice of either sticking with the code as it stands today,
So all of those or none of those, basically, bundling them together?
Basically, all or none, yes.
Okay.
Yes, rather than a 2 out of 3 sort of scenario. So they had a discussion on that, did not formalize anything. I think they'll do that. They're planning on that at the next meeting after they give the public a chance to comment.
So did they adopt, and Chris, jump in if you know, I mean, did they do the second reading on the rest of the items?
Yes, they
Okay.
did.
And so the rest of the items are adopted, and now they're going to come back to this issue about the bulk and height for a second reading on that as well? Okay.
So we're making progress.
I know there was an issue about implementation and whether to phase it in or not. Was there a decision made on that? Chris, do you know, or Commissioner Potts, do you remember?
Chris, correct me if this is wrong. My understanding is the items that they approved have taken effect as of the date of that meeting.
They will when they're published in the Sun Current, but I think they were still discussing a date if they were going to, for the other changes, if there was going to be a
So I know
date.
at one point they had thought about phasing in some of these changes to, and I don't know
I
what.
think they're still thinking about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the intent with the bulk issues is to do it as of January 1st, 2014. And the other items much sooner.
Seemed like the bulk items would be the ones that would be disruptive.
Right.
If
The
there were
other-
things in the
to
design process.
something in the design process.
Right.
The other ones, were grading and drainage, which
And certainly we thought those were important
those
to
are
get in
important
right
enough
away.
to start right away,
Okay.
I would hope. So that's how I kind of looked at it.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Potts and Chris.
Certainly.
Other comments as part of, well, I guess next up is Chair and Commission member comments. Are there any comments from the Commission? Commissioner Carr.
With regard to our work plan, which I don't have actually in front of me, I don't know if our next meeting, we're going to have a lot on the agenda, but we might want to revisit that, look at where we are and some of our goals. And one thing, again, I have a specific interest in is light pollution and lighting ordinances. Many cities have adopted those. So what I would propose is, if you're willing to allow me to do this, do a little research on that, maybe work with Carrie and find out what other cities have done, and maybe come up with a proposal that we could start considering and discussing.
Chris, do you know, or Jackie, what kind of agenda we've got for the 28th? I assume it's the 28th, 2 weeks from now.
We have a couple items, 6545 grants,
Oh,
redevelopment and addition, and then ramp, and then we're going to have.
they just couldn't stand having the neighbors across the street make a change without them jumping in.
And then a subdivision in Indian Hills.
Okay.
And a variance
And a
application.
variance.
Well, I think Commissioner Carr is right, it'd be nice, because I do think, is it in September or October that we have to visit the council again with our work plan for next year, or maybe it's October? So it wouldn't hurt for us to get the work plan on. Maybe if you could collaborate with Carrie and just, if not this meeting, maybe it's the first or second meeting in September, but I'd like sometime in the next 2 or 3 meetings to be able to take another look at that and be thinking about what we have to get done for the rest of the year, as well as what we might put on the work plan for 2014. The other item that you'll be seeing something on is we've been trying to get a discussion with the city attorney on the agenda, and so Carrie's been working to make that happen, to have some, we're a couple years into the new variance statute, and that, among other things, would be nice to have a chance to visit with him. And so I know Carrie and staff have been working on trying to figure out a date for that. So watch your email. I think we'll circulate a couple of options and see what's best to get the maximum number of members in attendance. I can report that we have had the first meeting of the latest Grandview advisory committee, and we are meeting again on the 26th of August, so we're meeting about once a month. It is being co-chaired by Mike Fisher and Jennifer Janovy, and I think they will do a terrific job, and I'll be updating you along with Commissioner Schroeder as we as we progress. Any other items? Staff comments, anything? All right. I don't know, it's not even 7:30. How can we do this? Feeling the need to open a couple of other agenda items. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn at 7:29.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Thank you, everyone.